Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode here on Eat Sleep Reef. This week I'm actually going to be doing a video as promised last week where I'm going to show you 5 things you can be doing right now that we're all kind of stuck at home. Don't really got much to do other than sit around, find stuff to do, obviously spend time with the family. But I also think it's a good time for you guys to put the attention your tank needs, especially if you're dealing with something. Whether some sort of algae, whether your coral's not curling up, whether an alkalinity or any parameter that's really not ideal or where you want it to be, it's a good time to get all that in line. So on top of that, also a good time if you're looking to try a new supplement, whether it's coral foods, amino acids. I mean, there's so many wide varieties that I'm sure we're all looking to try out. So in this video, we're going to cover 5 things you can be doing right now to your reef tank, kind of to get it back on track, to get it where you want it to be, and also to keep you occupied. One of the first things I think we can all do, and I've kind of put quite a bit of focus in it, is getting your sand bed nice and white. A lot of people ask me how I get my sand bed so white. And to be honest with you, every time I do perform a water change, or even if I'm not performing a water change, I'll put a stick in there, kind of swirl it around. And when I am doing a water change, obviously I spend a lot of time in the sand bed itself to make sure, when I am siphoning it out, I siphon out pretty much till there's no more dust, if you will, coming out of it. Now this is one thing you want to kind of look out for though when you are doing this. If you've never done it in your reef tank, you don't want to do more than maybe a quarter section at a time. So let's say if I've never ever touched the sand bed, I would probably only do this corner for this week. In 2 weeks I would do this corner, then that back corner, and then lastly the rear corner. If you're like me and you do it often, you can pretty much stir the whole sand bed in this tank, and I wouldn't have any worries about it having a huge nutrient spike, because that's something that you can trigger if you've never done it. It's very simple, very straightforward, but something you can look out for. Once you've done this for quite some time and you keep your sand bed like me, you can see I can pretty much stir it and you don't really get much dusting. Obviously there is always going to be some dust. You can see a lot of like snail poop and fish poop on the top of it. Oh look, and the sorry snail right there. But generally speaking, this is kind of if you do want to get it nice and clean, nice and white, this is a good way to do it. And obviously the obvious way is just siphon it out when you're doing the water change. So the top number 2 thing you could be doing while you're again here at home is cleaning out your sump. I can't emphasize the importance of having a clean sump as well. A lot of people think a sump is just a sump and you don't really need to care about it. Especially, I believe, and again, this is my opinion, I believe if you are using a refugium, it's very important that you keep that section of it clean so it's not growing, any algae on the wall, and all the nutrients growth is focused specifically on the chaeto ball. So it's essentially not competing with anything else in the sump. And this can be done very simple. Now, there is some things to keep in mind. If you do have an acrylic sump, you want to use an acrylic pad to clean it. Do not use a metal scraper. You'll probably learn, and it's going to be something that sticks with you for a while because you'll immediately know that it absolutely scratches it. If you do have a glass sump, you can certainly use a glass scraper. If you have an acrylic one, they do make acrylic pads. API makes them. There's tons of other manufacturers out there that make them. You can also use a credit card. A credit card works really good, especially if you have a coralline or just some really nasty gunk to get out of there. Also a good idea, clean out your skimmer while you're here working on the sump area. Clean the face of it, clean the top, clean the whole surroundings. It's not a bad idea to clean your skimmer. You can see I got mine nice and clean. Believe it or not, this is kind of off topic, but I've actually shut off the skimmer for 1 full week. To kind of try to see what effects that has on this algae or bacteria, whatever you want to call it. And I actually have some pretty good news. It's actually been working. So, I'll probably make a video in the next, few weeks. I want to make sure that this is indeed what's, causing the change. But either way, we'll save that for a different video. If you are dosing stuff, you can also clean your dosing lines, run them nice and clean, run fresh water through them so they don't get clogged up. Just really do any maintenance you need to do on the bottom of your tank. If it's wire management, cleaning of the sump, anything on the bottom you can knock out. This one here in my number 3 is going to be on supplements, but more focused on nutrient supplements, whether it's for your fish, for your corals, amino acids, coral foods, frozen foods, flake foods, additives as well, not only garlics. I mean, we're going to cover, this is probably going to be a little bit more of the long-winded section, but if you do want to try out some new products, whether it's amino acids, a new food, a new frozen food, a new additive for the food, whatever the case is, this would be a great time because you can really monitor your corals or fish and see if it's either working for you or not. Starting out here, we have prime reef flakes. I really love these. More importantly, not me, the fish absolutely go nuts for them. I've always had very good luck, and this is typically what I tend to feed. Typically I'll feed about 2 to 3 times a day. This will be a part of that diet during the day. Celcon is a great additive for any type of food. It's also a great additive for coral foods, fish foods. So you can dip your flakes in there with a few drops. You can also use it for frozen foods here. So it's a really, really nice additive. I highly recommend if you guys aren't using this, do some research, read for yourself. But so far, I've really seen pretty good results with it. Obviously, we can't forget the very popular reefroids with the polyp booster. This is by far my most favorite combo. A lot of people ask me, especially in the JBJ, how I got my zoas to be so colorful, how I got them to grow so big, how I got my acants so colorful. Honestly, guys, it was all thanks to the reefroids. It's a great coral food. It really, really gets them to go crazy and really start getting some colors out of them. Generally, the way I use this, you put the polyp booster about 15 minutes before. It gets the coral into feeding mode, and then you're able to obviously start spot feeding. Now, you can broadcast feed or spot feed. For best results, I highly recommend you spot feeding. Obviously, it does take more time, but believe me, it's going to be worth it. Another additive I use, this is for corals only, is fuel. Now, this is an amino acid, great for growth, great for color. This is what I used in the JBJ. Okay, I had great luck with it, no complaints whatsoever. Not only myself, a lot of reefers you'll find use this stuff. I recently got turned on to this product and this product here together. It kind of, this one here would be more similar to this bad boy here. This one, although this one does help increase growth, this one is kind of specifically targeted for coral growth, where here it's an amino acid. It's a very concentrated amino acid, and I've heard great talks about this. This is a Continuum brand, so that was a fuel. And then again, going for the Continuum, the Coral Exponential, if you have a pretty successful reef and everything's really happy, and you want to try out something that really is targeted to get more growth out of them, a great product, guys. Not coming from myself, but for someone that services tanks, someone that's been in the hobby for about 25 years, he turned me on to this. If you guys saw, I covered his tank. He was a local reefer named Bill. He's the one that really turned me on to this, so I'm gonna give it a try. Also, Ocean Snow. Ocean Snow is kind of just like a broadcast feed for corals. And then of course the amino acids, all great supplements. Now for you guys wondering, I'll talk about this one a little bit. For you guys wondering, the company Continuum, you've probably never heard of it. I don't know if you guys are or aren't aware, but Brightwell Aquatics is a sister company of Continuum. In other words, it's like saying Radion and Aqualumination. It's essentially the same company, Continuum and Brightwell. I wouldn't say they're the same company, but they're a sister company, very much like Aqualumination and Ecotech. So if you love Brightwell stuff, almost guaranteed you're gonna love this stuff here. So another good additives, I guess we can section these off together. Additives for food. More for fish, you can do it for coral, but more for when you're feeding your fish is garlic. This is a great way to get their immune system up. If you are doing or dealing with the parasite in your reef tank, obviously, quarantine may be your best bet, but if you can't quarantine, giving them additives with Celcon and garlic is a great way to get rid of maybe anything they may have. Phytofeast. Phytofeast is a great feeder for the reef tank, specifically more for corals. Also, if you got a refugium, it's great for keeping your pod population nice and happy. And then on the very last here, we have the coral food and the fish food. The Rod's Food, the original blend, I really like because it benefits both corals and fish. Whatever your fish don't eat, the corals will pick up the rest. And these guys here are also great for both fish and coral. This one more specifically for coral, but you also see fish go nuts over these eggs. And just all in all, a great selection. And this is kind of what I use in my reef tank. You know, whatever you use, if you're looking to try something new, even if it's not something I just showed you here, now would be a very good time to do so. Number 4 you can be doing like while you're here at home is going to be dealing with any bad algae or anything you're not happy with the reef tank, but again, more targeted to an algae. So if you're dealing with hair algae and so on, you have 2 options. You can either try and go the natural way and kind of hope it cleans itself over time, or it'll eventually kill itself off, although that may happen, or it'll take a really long time for it to do so and get established. A way around that is obviously to, again, kind of stick in the natural way, but would be to check your nutrients, make sure everything's in line, and increase your water change consistency. And not only the consistency, but the amount. A lot of people recommend a 5%. I personally don't believe in the 5%, especially when you're trying to make a change on a reef tank. You know, 10, 20%, 30%, you know, I see no problem with that. And that's obviously gonna help get the bad water out of your system and essentially get good water back in there. So that's one way. You can do with water changes, do them more frequently, do more amount of them, if you will. And there's also the chemical way. So Continuum makes a great product that I've actually used. I don't know if you guys remember the crazy hair algae video I did on one of the office reef tanks. They had about 4 to 5 inch strains of hair algae. And within 3 weeks, it was all gone. I mean, I remember when I made that video, a lot of people were saying, tear it down. There's no way you're gonna get it back on track. That thing is done for, just do a restart, XYZ. And, you know, luckily I went against the grain and I went with a product that was recommended again by Bill, and that thing worked miracles. I would absolutely try it again in my personal tank. So that's one of them. Also Vibrance. You guys have probably seen BRS video. They make a product called Vibrant or Vibrance. It's one of them. But again, it's kind of the same thing. It's a cultured bacteria that specifically targets algae you don't want in your reef tank. And they've done a lot of videos on them, and it shows that it works very well. So now would be a great time to get those in line, to do those, again, because you can really monitor them, you can see if they're working, you can make any minor adjustments that need to be made. Okay, so number 5, and the last one I have, I kind of saved this one because I know this is one that a lot of people are afraid of, and that's going to be begin dosing. Whether it's 2-part dosing, whether it's just a new supplement you want to use, a coral food or no pogs or whatever the case is, iodines or coral colors. I mean, there's so many products out there, but specifically I'm going to talk about more into the orientation of 2-part dosing. So calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. Now there's tons of products out there. Currently I'm using, as you guys know, Triton method. That one's pretty straightforward. But there's also BRS 2-part. And there's a Red Sea 2-part, I mean, the list goes on and on. There's so many companies that have it. Now, generally speaking, these companies will have instructions on how to use it, and, you know, they'll tell you for every 25 gallons dose, you know, 1 milliliter, and it'll affect the DKH X amount, or it'll affect the calcium X amount. Since there's so many different products out there, I recommend you to go by the instructions. Now, this is where I'm gonna put my recommendation. Start with less, I would say about 50% less than whatever they're recommending for your reef tank. This is going to start you off in a good place. I mean, worst case scenario, you're going to be underdosing, but as it is, you weren't dosing it to begin with, so it's not that big of a deal. But as you're at home, specifically alkalinity, test at least 2 times a day. Luckily, I have the KH Director. It's able to test for me automatically. If you don't have that, the HANA alkalinity checker is a great option. But do your test 1 in the morning, 1 at night, just to make sure your levels are correct. Now, if you're noticing that your levels are either dropping or maintaining, I wouldn't make any sudden changes. Let it play out for a full week, even if you're underdosing, to verify that indeed your levels are slightly low. If that's the case, increase a little bit more, till you get to your optimum level. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is don't make any sudden changes, specifically when you're dosing 2-part. You want to take it nice and slow, take your time, test for it, to verify that you're going in the right direction. So guys, that's gonna be it for this week, my top 5 things and what I recommend you do in your reef tank. Of course, there's a lot of you that aren't even dealing with any of these issues, or maybe you've already addressed them. Well, you know what, for you guys, you just get to sit back and enjoy your reef tanks. Or maybe buy some more corals that you've been looking at, because I've seen there's a lot of sales going on from a lot of companies out there. Hopefully you guys got something from this video. I could probably do this video for an hour long and cover so many more topics, but I hope I was able to at least cover the most important ones that I believe you could be doing. I guess another one I didn't even talk about was lighting. You could obviously start adjusting your schedule, either slowly ramping up to get more color, more growth, but again, that's I guess that'll be the bonus one. So guys, I'm gonna leave this video here. I'd love to hear down in the comment box below what you guys think. What are you guys doing to pass time in this time that we're dealing with right now, not only here in the United States, but all over, you know, the world. Pretty much it's an epidemic that's everywhere. So I really hope you guys are happy, you guys are healthy, more importantly, your family's also happy and healthy. And you know, we're gonna get through it, but hopefully this is a way, this beautiful hobby we have, reefing, can keep your mind off all the negativity going around, and you can actually get your tank back on track where we originally wanted. So thank you guys very much for joining me in this week's video. Thank each and every one of you very much for watching. As always, happy reefing.